Field reports from the strange. This is Obscura Bureau.
Hello everyone. Hello. Hello everyone. And perhaps you'll find it a bit strange to see me appear in this form, in this setting, with this arrangement. The reason is that I'm just about to return to Hanoi. And I don't have much time to run around doing this and that. So this channel seems a bit devoid of me. And it might continue like this from now until after 10. I'm trying to do something. So that this Tat Snow has on Chung and me. So I hope you understand that. However, I'm also here to share with you one last time before we start the new year. What do I want to share? Last time when I live streamed, someone said my bookshelf is full of self-help books. Then I challenged, just one challenge. Challenged that guy to point out in my shelf if there's any book called self-help. If not, then I'll let him read. Why do people hate self-help so much? Sometimes I still wonder. Does self-help have any fault that it has to be that bad? Actually, I myself am not that against self-help. I have a not very positive opinion about self-help. But that's just my personal view. But I didn't expect that many people like self-help so much. Who hates self-help? Here will be some of my views on reading in general. Not just self-help. First, why do I support self-help? In the past, I was like many friends of the same age. I read a lot of self-help. That's the truth. At that time, I read a lot of self-help. Besides books that tell everyday stories. Like inspirational books. We also have a pile of how to win friends and influence people books. And of course we also have a concept called The Alchemist. What I hated most at that time was how to win friends and influence people. Why is that? I read. And I read. Initially, I knew about how to win friends and influence people from my brother's bookshelf. Then my friends mentioned it in middle school. So I also pulled it out to try reading, and I read 3 to 4 chapters then. I felt there was something wrong with this. I myself am a person with what's called, is it instinct or rather, to be more precise, it's a very clear intuition about justice. I know what is right and what is wrong. So in reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, I only felt the question always popped into my head. Why do I have to deceive others? Why do I have to be fake? S the word. I find it a bit heavy. But I still had to twist and turn, perform tricks, to make people around think, oh, this guy is really... But what about my true self? Who am I? In this story, when I try to make people like me appreciate me, but they only appreciate or like the version that I present. As for my true self, deep in the soul, what is that person for? And clearly when there's a relationship just lasting about 2 to 3 years, not even that long, we will immediately recognize the bad points, the negative sides of that person. If we cannot love their negative sides, then how can we love that person completely? So after reading a small part of How to Win Friends, I realized that. Why is it like it? It teaches me how to manipulate others, to make them like me, appreciate. Well, that's not what I need. So I refused to continue that book. Additionally, there's the book I Am Gifted, So Are You, by Adam Kuhn. This book is in my sister's book, and I extremely hate that book. The reason is because I honestly share. I am luckier than everyone, in one aspect. That is, I study quite well. I have quite good academic thinking. Therefore, I absorb knowledge very quickly. But that is not something that everyone has. I would like to call that my natural talent. That makes me feel like I always belong to the top of the class, at least in the top 10. If not top 5, then definitely. But when talking with friends, I feel they are much better than me. I see that they have their own strengths, characteristics that I can never surpass. For example, some are taller than me. I'm only 1.7 meters. I belong to the short type of people. In middle school, I was only 1.4. I was very short, while they had early puberty. We're already 1.7, some of you in 1.9, while I was still only 1.4. I went through puberty and I had light, and of course in sports. Height is a very decisive fact I could never surpass. What they could do. The only thing I could do was train my legs to be stronger, so I could jump higher. Or practice skills, like dribbling to be more flexible. But even so, I still couldn't surpass them. This made me realize that there are differences between people that lie in what is called foundation, fundamental. I am different from you, you are different from me. The differences between us are, and gradually it made me realize the differences between, for humans, is not simply that. We have different bodies, and we also have different ways of thinking. We are raised differently. We eat differently. Almost every cell in our bodies is completely different from others. We only have. They share the same genetic code. But every small detail in that genetic, we are already different. I grew up in a family with father, mother, sister, and I grew up in Hanoi. I attended many different schools. You're not in Hanoi. You don't have parents like mine. And you're not at my school. You don't study with me 24/7. You don't live my life. So how can you understand me? And how can you have what I have? Even identical twins, born looking exactly alike, literally having the same genes, same parents, same family, sometimes even having the same education system, living together 24/7. Yet they're still different, and don't understand each other. Why do you and I, two complete strangers, need to have that? Why do you and I have to be the same, while you and I were born different? The fundamental differences between humans made me realize that book is kind of WTF man, like. Of course I'm talented, and so are you, meaning you and I are different. But if you actually read about that book, it always feels like, oh, you need to try harder. You have so many styles. You have to be really special. I feel like it's like, T do it, I. And that's a feeling that, S the term. It means pushing yourself into a feeling of guilt. And I absolutely hate that feeling, and I don't like it. So, after I read that book, I felt very negative. I didn't want to read anymore. And I also stopped that book. Reading a book doesn't necessarily. Reading is about stopping when you feel fed up. Because not every author is good. And not every book is interesting. Maybe the first few chapters are good, but the later, you don't need to read it all. You just need to read to understand. And for it to sink deep, retaining many things is what's important. Then, now, this is just about self-help books. Why I hate them. Basically, the ones I've read all felt empty. And it lacks depth. And it's not practical. Even the book called The Father of Self-Help, which I actually finished reading. The book. Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill wrote very well. Admittedly, what he wrote after the dream interview with Andrew Carnegie was written very well. Very interesting. But by chapter 10, by chapter 10, then he started talking about a concept called focusing the power of the WT. You will be my S. You want that. If you desire something, the universe will grant it to you. The reality is, when you pursue something, you try to find the answer for each question. One, you think about the plan. You identify where the problem is and why this needs to be done. Basically, you will find the answer, and you will untangle the knot in that problem. That's what you need to understand. Not that. In your mind, oh, I want this, I crave this, so, like you. Imagine. You, like a girl, or you like a boy. Then you think later, oh, I like him so, he should love me. Would they know? And would they kind of? As if there's some force out there, the universe makes me. It never. Those are unrealistic, and very far-fetched. I myself see those things. I read those things. I'm like, I can use positive thinking. In some cases, thinking about. There are pains, difficulty, initial sufferings that anyone must encounter, must accept, must overcome to be able to move forward with the future or something. The goal I am aiming for, but the part behind that, when Mr. Nguyen talks about those far-fetched thoughts. If we don't have life experiences, without practical, we won't be able to understand what real life is like. Specifically what they do out there. Or as I just mentioned, that is thinking and planning, along with how to build a problem, point out the problem and solve it. Then all that we think in our heads is just a pile of popcorn that It has no practical value. Unfortunately, these books are written by very talented writers. In polishing literature, they write sentences that we can extract and trace elsewhere. They look very beautiful. We can tear that page out, paste it on as a poster of it, and everyone applaud. Oh, so good. It provides motivation. It is encouraging. It makes us feel positive. Therefore, in that pile of popcorn pods, it will stand out. Sentences like that make us feel as if, so this book is really good, really positive. Meanwhile, it's thinking, so it makes me feel extremely negative. That means, in a party, it's all feces. You get some seafood, abalone. So you see, this party is delicious. Let me ask, do you really want to eat feces? The answer is no. For me, that's my feeling about self-help. Believe it. Why? Because, and there are personal life experiences. For example, going dancing. Next I'll share with you why going dancing helped me think differently about self-help. In the past, I learned dancing from Teacher Daspin. Teacher Daspin is one of the most famous b-boys in Vietnam in the sign community. Previously was Big Tao, and only did I learn the basics. But before that, I had already practiced b-boy. And honestly speaking, my b-boy in the past, it was called painful b-boy. Anyone in the hip-hop community. But the Diplomatic Academy at my class 39 all knew who the painful b-boy was, who the painful b-boy was. Because I had no foundation. When dancing I was always stopping like that. And only when I learned basic dancing did I understand what the story was like. First is my current sitting posture. Sitting posture like this. Sitting posture like this is not basic. Sitting posture like this is not basic. Can everyone sit straight in this position? But we have to sit like this. Why is that? First, the back must be straight. The back must be kept straight. Second, the heels must be placed under the butt. Why? Because there is a very clear reason as follows. If we sit like this, then all movements look very comfortable. This is the basic thing. When we place our hands to the side like this, like here, we just need to lean. Then this leg is already freed. There. And if you don't know the basic thing, we sit like this. Then, how? Does it look like that? To pull the leg out, we have to lift it a bit. There. And the buttocks almost always touch the ground. Meanwhile, if we know how to sit like this, and know how to place hands correctly like this, then this leg will come very easy and almost no movement is needed. It still comes out automatically. And we can switch legs. Switch, hook. Switch, hook. There. Basically like that. It looks simple, but must practice. And must practice for a long, just this sitting position alone. It's not just simply sitting. There are many other things too. It's also about rhythm. There. It's also about other movements. There. If we don't have the foundation of sitting like this, and practice how to move while sitting like this, basically we find it very difficult to break dance. People often think b-boying is just sitting, but that's not actually the case. B-boying is about using the body to play along with the music. Enjoying music with the body. If you don't know how to use your body to feel the music, then it can't be called dancing. It's just TikTok dancing. That's exactly the essence of dancing is like that. Basically, we need to have a foundation. Without a foundation, we cannot master what we learn in life. If you don't have a basic foundation, then anything you do will be shaky, loose, and unstable. Self-help is similar to that. Self-help is taking the best patterns of something, putting them together into a book and claiming it's great. When you look at self-help, you only see the surface. You don't see the core. You don't grasp the essence. You don't understand where the fundamental problem lies. You haven't trained the skill to absorb that. Dancing helped me realize that without foundation, without it, there's nothing at all. Self-help only looks beautiful on the surface. And self-help is essentially extracted from those foundational things and decorated to look really nice. So what is our mission? Our mission is to master the basics and foundation. Then, you'll approach self-help with a completely different perspective. That is, instead of us Just seeing interesting words. Cool. Wonderful. Floating. We realize that, these things I can apply to this network. This foundation. This problem. And this mindset. This sentence is used in this case because we already have a solid basic foundation. Applying that correct mindset and that foundation will be much more accurate. And this is the trap that many young people nowadays fall into. Our social pace of life is getting faster. When we have technology, moving from one place to another is just a matter of moments. Since we have Shopee, Grab, Uber and other services, our going out to eat and drink has significantly decreased. From then on, going out to eat is only in restaurants or highly rated and worth trying places. For other places, we just order food, right? Therefore, that change makes our lives easier. What is it called? Convenience. When we already have convenience, for us to sacrifice personal time for other things is very difficult. Because once you're sitting on the sofa, already warm and comfortable, or you're curled up in a warm blanket, especially in cold seas, already warm in a blanket, do you want to go out? Do this and that? Yes, you'll have to be forced to do it to get up. And that's one of the things I feel existing in today's life. When people are too accustomed to leisure, to relaxation, to this convenience, people find it very hard to get up and start doing something new, something practical. Instead, we just lie there, eating fast food, watching Netflix. Fast food. Everyone knows how fast food affects their body. It's just a worthless jumble. When you eat it, your stomach bloats. And if we only approach self-help without practicing, eating fast food without exercising, it accumulates in the stomach and turns into belly fat. Reading self-help without reflecting and applying, it gets stuck in the head, forming fat in the brain. It will make us become people who say relativity means everything is relative. It will make us think that Vietnam has a national costume because we don't have 54. If we only look at the surface, through quick content, through short information, sounds good but is actually hollow, then it will make this life lose its true value, which is experience. We only get pieces, tiny bits, scattered, trivial like this, stuffing ourselves. We feel it's good, but in reality, we have no foundation. Basically, eating fast food without exercising. Then you'll soon end up in the hospital. Reading self-help without reflecting. Then you'll soon talk about life principles like living like old Jack Ball. So, now what? How to escape this situation? Actually, I say I don't oppose self-help at all because I recognize the value of self-help. Those are bullet point style books. Those are compilation books. It's like when you go on YouTube, watch movie summaries, or watch super compilations like that. Instead, you can read self-help after reading books like this. What kind of books? There is a trick. That is if you read long enough. You will realize that all lessons from self-help books originate from good stories. And self-help books are essentially extremely condensed versions, or extremely poor versions of the Bible. That's right. And in the Bible, what does God teach us? Love. I don't think you need to read the Bible. Honestly, I don't encourage you to read the Bible. But if you have time and want to challenge you can take it out to study. I'm not an expert in that field. I'm just someone who has been exposed to and read it. Not a religious follower, but I understand. The ultimate message for us is always to love one another. And not do bad things that affect others, harm others. Then, that is the ultimate, the most essential thing. At a lower level, we have positive aspects. We have extremely good artistic works, written by great writers. Why is that? Because all self-help books are things extracted, in the most condensed way possible, from heroic stories, rich in humanism. If you read books like this, like Les Miserables, Victor Hugo, Les Miserables, the story of Jean Bell, you will realize how complex society is. through just one person. One person. Jinglaozong, understand? Just one person. Makes you reflect. And isn't this what I said from the very beginning? Reflect. When we think about this character, we see the depth of the character. We see the depth of society. We see things called paradoxes of society. Those things. Reasonable but not sentimental but not reasonable, and make us think more deeply about each person's circumstances. From there, when we start writing them down, into specific cases, into small stories, in such small situations, we then realize, alright, so this part belongs to the self-help genre. Victor Hugo claimed it resonates with the tale of Kyo. The tale of Kyo. Educated, but works as a prison guard, a very manual job. Meanwhile, the educated person who appreciates lit is a completely different story. Isn't it? Why would an educated person who values words do such work? The irony of society that puts these people in such circumstances, and they have those thoughts. When we read such books, such stories, self-help ideas naturally seep into us. But we remember longer, reflect more, because now it has a plot, has characters. We can use it to tell others. Self-help is just some very nice sayings, written by people very skilled with words, while stories are what help make them eternal. Kai Fio may have died, but Kai Fio is immortal. You can tell about Kai Fio so future generations always who gave him integrity, and what that brick kiln was like in Brunei village back then, and what society was like then. And even today, we still see many Kai Fios on the street, and out there are also many widows. Alright. Human beings. The story. It makes those messages penetrate deeply into people, and when living in this society, we hardly recognize the depth, the essence of each thing, instead of just superficial thoughts. That is exactly why we read self-help books. We read classics. We read great artistic works. When we have understood the story, when we have understood, we already have the basic foundation. Reading self-help books, it's like adding meat to make the dish more beautiful. Therefore, actually self-help isn't that bad. But we should only read when we have certain experiences and thoughts. So that from there we understand, where these sentences originate, and in which circumstances to use them. Therefore, of course, not every type of wine is delicious, but not all wine is bad. Knowing how to drink, knowing when to drink, knowing where to drink, then it's always interesting. Self-help is similar. Pouring it all into your head will only make you drunk. But if you just sip a little, and in the right place with the right people, then it's extremely interesting. Therefore, I think this sharing will be very positive. Reasonable for everyone. Otherwise, if everyone again distorts and misrepresent, then, hey, this guy promotes self-help. You should gain more experience, like those who think relativity theory means everything is relative. Peace. Please subscribe to the Gian MI Go channel to not miss exciting videos.
If the report helped, subscribe and open the next case.